I was just kind of making a comment, but apparently Robin really does have a thing with the prefix thing. Like, is it an aster? If it is, I like their interesting respective approaches between Superboy and Superman. It's also, I'm actually not usually the kind of person to lay praise at Nolan North's feet, but that's mostly a factor of the fact that I usually don't get to hear him voice any significant roles. And that's just by coincidence, really. Nothing really against that. But I have to give the man huge props for the way he's been voicing Soups in this one. That is to say, Superman, the only one I'll call Soups. There's a hesitancy and an uncomfortableness to the way he interacts around Superboy, which is just fantastic. There's even this bit where he starts to reprimand Superboy, and Superboy says, "You're totally right, please teach me." And Superman's like, "Oh God, I have no idea how to deal with that. No, that's Batman. Batman's got that. Bye." And Bats is like, "We need to talk, dude. Clark. We need to talk." So Black Canary shows up and finally starts the training sessions. I've actually always liked Black Canary as a character, although a lot of that's because of the DCAU, I will go ahead and admit. But I like how she's awesome, but she is able to redirect people who are basically stronger than her just by having the skill to know what to do about it, because that makes sense. At a certain level, power will overwhelm skill, but it's kind of a curved thing, right? The power curve is here, and the skill curve is here. Well, actually, I'm doing this wrong. Like skill curve is here, and the power curve is here. And at a certain point, power will start to overwhelm skill. But Superboy's nowhere near that level of power, so Canary can easily outmaneuver him, which I liked. I also like how she's never condescending. At no point in time does she talk down to him. She's just reaches out to him. And she even reaches out to him afterwards, like, when you're ready, I'll be here. We'll figure this out. One of the things that I keep commenting on, I know you may not be watching my Deep Space Nine stuff, but one of the things I comment on many times, that's come up many times in my Deep Space Nine videos, is there's several characters who are never actually embraced by the people around them. And as a consequence of that, and multiple other factors, they end up kind of going bad. I like how several of the heroes have been going out of their way to try and embrace the Young Justice group here, to try and make them feel like they are part of the team and that they are actually, a member of this league, this family, on a personal level as well as on a professional level. In fact, Bats has actually been impressing me pretty well this whole time, so definite props there. Anyways, so then, a quick aside. Obviously, we see Superboy. He's not dealing with this well because Megan has Martian Manhunter. And there's this really subtle bit, it's like a second, where Robin identifies, "Oh, that's Ivo." And Batman says, "Good guess, Robin." And his tone lightens just a little bit. And then it cuts to Superboy, who just kind of goes, "Ugh." Everyone else has a direct person, a father figure, essentially, or something similar, who is helping them out and being there for them, and obviously cares about them. Now, that's the important part, because while all these people are embracing Superboy, there's one person who isn't: Superman. And this is really made clear. After the second time, Bats is like, "Okay, no, it's Clark, dude, we have to talk." And so they sit down, and their personas like, okay, without their personas, we really do need to talk about this. And Bats lays it out. He just completely goes to brass tacks, and he speaks from the heart, and as hard as he can. He lays down an iron anvil on Soup's face, basically, and says, "Look, you are dead wrong. That kid needs a father figure. He needs you." And Superman reacts violently. "No, he doesn't. I'm sorry. I'll take the dessert to go." And this is, obviously we've seen he's been uncomfortable the whole time, but this is the first time we see just how much this whole thing is bothering him, how much it's really getting to him. As I've said before, writing for the man, not the super, is how you write Superman. So, disaster. I love that bit. Superboy, of course, then just kind of loses it. He spends almost the entire episode just incredible hulking his way through the situation and losing in almost every case. I love the bit where they start fighting and oh god, we need to keep up. What do we do? Wally gets off his bike and just starts running because he's faster without his bike. I was actually thinking to myself how being on a motorcycle is probably very dangerous, very, very tasking. Oh god, to normals. For Wally, that's probably just a Sunday stroll. Like, yeah. Do. I also like, by the way, there's a quick aside, that once the truck is being attacked directly, Robin, the one trained by Batman, is the one who prioritized getting the driver out, not going after the target. Because of course he would. I just like that little touch there. Anyways. So, Caldura says they shouldn't radio in, because obviously we're supposed to solve things. While that makes a degree of sense, I have to admit that there's nothing wrong with radioing in. Like, hey, so we're encountering some problems. We may have to deal with this. Oh, yacht attack. There's nothing wrong with admitting that. And reporting in so that the HQ knows what's going on, right? Just food for thought. Anyways. So, I have to mention something. I wrote this down. Mobile Optimal Neural Quotient Infiltrators. Speaking personally, I know exactly how hard it is to make good acronyms. I suck at making acronyms. I've tried for years. It's like, no, it needs to spell this. Maybe if I move this letter. No, hang on. Let's just spend 3 hours in a thesaurus. So then we see Amazo. Yay! I've never liked Amazo. He's always been kind of cheap to me. But I do actually like this take on it. Even though it's... Because Amazo is pretty silly, even by DC standards. But this Amazo kind of makes sense to me because, first of all, he's more limited. He doesn't get all their powers. He just gets one of their powers and an obviously weaker version of it. The second thing that I like is that it takes him a moment to swap, and he can only manifest one of their powers at a time. Now, I know there's comic versions of Amazo that do that. It's just, I like this take on it because it makes him deadly without being ridiculous. So... One of the points that Black Canary made, that Robin made as well, is you have to fight above your pay grade. Right? Like, that's the job. You have to be able to fight above your pay grade. Not everyone's going to be evenly matched against someone else who is evenly matched against them. And I like how Robin, of all people, has to make that point. But also because Superboy finally kind of starts to get the acknowledgement of, you're right, I do have to think around this one. So he decides to take her advice and redirect his anger. And it's actually funny to me how long it took him to get the idea to go after the guy rather than the bot. But then again, when you're really angry, you're usually not thinking straight, so I suppose I can forgive that. I also like how Bats, when Superboy says, all the League? Bats, of course he understands. Of course, that man of all men understands what it's like to be a child wanting the adoration and love of your father. So he says, give it time. Kryptonians are known for having hard heads. Good episode overall. You can see how things are still kind of progressing in their own little way. So, I'll see you next time, guys.